Have you ever opened your fridge, looked around, and wondered, wait, am I keeping this in the right place? Maybe you've tucked that loaf of bread behind the milk or placed a bunch of bananas in the crisper drawer, thinking it'll keep them fresh longer? I get it. We've all done it, thinking the fridge is the safest spot for almost everything. But here's something that might surprise you. Some of the most common foods, the ones you probably eat every day, actually lose their flavor, their nutrients, and sometimes even become harmful just because they're stored in the cold. It's not your fault. These habits sneak into our routines quietly, but once you know what to look for, you'll never see your kitchen the same way again. In this video, we're going to talk about everyday foods that should never be stored in the refrigerator. And more importantly, what to do instead. Because small changes in how we store food can make a big difference in how we feel, especially as we age. Before we get started, I'd love to know where you're joining me from today. Drop a comment below and feel free to ask any questions you have. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a health-boosting tip from Health 365. Let's start with something simple, potatoes, something that's probably sitting in your fridge right now. Potatoes. You know, potatoes are one of those foods that just seem to belong in every kitchen. They're dependable, familiar, and comforting, from a warm bowl of mashed potatoes to a crispy roasted side dish. But here's a question. Many folks don't stop to ask, are we storing them the right way for years? I used to come home from the store and toss them right into the fridge without thinking twice. It felt like the safe thing to do. But it turns out the cold air in the fridge isn't doing our potatoes any favors. In fact, it's quietly turning them into something that's not just less tasty, but possibly harmful. You see, potatoes are full of starch, and when you keep them in the fridge, that starch turns into sugar much faster than it should now. Here's where it gets tricky when those sugar-loaded potatoes are later roasted, baked, or fried at high heat, like in a pan or oven. They can produce a chemical called acrylamide. That's a word you don't hear every day, but it's important. Acrylamide has been linked to cancer in animal studies, and while research in humans is still ongoing, it's something food safety experts are watching closely. But even if we set aside the science, there's a more obvious sign: the taste and texture. Have you ever cooked potatoes that turned oddly sweet or turned dark and mushy? That's not your imagination, it's the cold messing with their natural balance, and once that happens, they're just not the same. The good news is this is an easy fix. Instead of the fridge, store your potatoes in a cool, dark, and dry spot like a pantry, or even a kitchen drawer. A mesh bag or wooden crate works wonders. It helps them breathe and stay firm. Not only will they taste better, but they'll also keep longer and be much safer for your next meal. Now let's talk bread. About bread, that soft, familiar comfort we all love. There's just something special about bread. Isn't there? A fresh slice with a bit of butter, or a piece of toast in the morning with your tea? It feels like home for many seniors. Bread is part of daily life, and it makes perfect sense that we'd want to keep it fresh for as long as possible. So naturally, many of us think the fridge is the best place for it. I used to think the same. But here's where it gets interesting. Keeping bread in the refrigerator doesn't actually help it stay soft. It does the opposite. The cold air triggers a process called retrogradation. Don't worry about the fancy word. It simply means the starches in the bread start to change their structure in the cold, and that makes the bread turn hard and dry much faster than if you just left it on the counter. Have you ever made a sandwich and found the bread crumbly or stiff, or noticed your toast goes from soft to cardboard overnight? That's not just bad luck. That's the fridge working against your bread. And there's more. When cold bread is taken in and out of the fridge, moisture builds up inside the bag. That dampness becomes the perfect playground for mold. And moldy bread isn't just unpleasant, it can actually be harmful, especially for anyone with a sensitive stomach or immune issues. So what's a better way to store it if you plan to eat the bread within a few days? Just keep it sealed tightly in a bag or container at room temperature. A bread box or a dry cabinet works beautifully. Let's move on to onions, tiny but mighty. Onions, and surprisingly sensitive to cold onions, are one of those kitchen staples that we reach for without even thinking. A bit in the soup, a slice in the salad, chopped into an omelet. They're everywhere, and for good reason. They bring so much flavor to our meals without much effort. But here's the catch. If you've been storing your onions in the fridge, they may be especially helpful for immunity, skin, and tissue repair in older adults. That moisture slowly seeps through the outer layers, making the onion soft and prone to mold. Ever opened your fridge drawer and found a slimy onion with dark spots? That's exactly why. But there's something else going on too. Onions have a strong aroma. We all know that in a closed space like a fridge, that smell doesn't just sit still, it drifts. It can sneak into nearby food like butterfruit, or even yesterday's leftovers. Have you ever bitten into something and thought, why does this taste like onion? That's cross-contamination, and the fridge is the perfect stage for it. And it gets a bit more serious with cut onions. Once sliced onions lose their protective barrier and quickly soak up moisture. If they're not sealed tightly, bacteria can start growing, especially in the damp air of the fridge. You may have even heard people say onions absorb toxins. While that's more myth than fact, it's true that damp, exposed onions become a breeding ground for bacteria fast. So what's the better choice? Keep whole onions in a cool, dark and dry place like a pantry or a hanging basket with good airflow. Skip the plastic bags and let them breathe. If you've already sliced one, store the leftovers in a small airtight container and use it within a couple of days for extra care. Wrap it in a paper towel first to absorb moisture. Now let's talk about tomatoes. Bright. Tomatoes, juicy and surprisingly fragile in the cold. Tomatoes are a gift to any meal. They add color, flavor, and that perfect balance of sweet and tangy. Whether it's slices in a sandwich, chunks in a salad, or simmered in a warm bowl of soup, tomatoes bring a kind of sunshine to the plate. But what many people don't realize is this: when you put a tomato in the fridge, it stops being what it was meant to be. You see, tomatoes are tropical fruits by nature. They were never built for the cold. So when you store them in a refrigerator, especially before they're fully ripe, their internal systems just shut down. The natural enzymes that develop flavor and maintain texture become inactive. What you end up with is a tomato that looks fine on the outside but tastes well flat, and it's not just about taste. Cold temperatures can also lead to something else. You might have seen: wrinkled skin and a dull, mealy texture. It's as if the tomato gave up halfway through ripening. Even worse, the chill reduces its vitamin C content, one of the best nutrients tomatoes offer, especially helpful for immunity, skin, and tissue repair in older adults. So what's a better way? Keep your tomatoes at room temperature, out of direct sunlight. A bowl on the counter works well. Just make sure they have a little breathing space. If they're still firm, leave them stem side down. It helps slow moisture loss and supports even ripening once they're ripe. Try to use them within a few days, and if they do start to get a little soft, don't toss them out. That's the perfect moment to make a quick tomato sauce soup or even roast them for a warm side dish. They're still full of goodness, just ready for a different purpose. Now let's explore garlic, the garlic little clove with big healing power that quietly loses its strength in the fridge. Garlic has always been more than just a seasoning. For generations, it's been a symbol of home cooking, warmth, and even healing. One clove can turn a simple pan of vegetables into something deeply flavorful and health-wise. Garlic's been linked to all kinds of benefits, from lowering blood pressure to strengthening the immune system, even easing inflammation. That's why so many of us, especially as we get older, keep garlic close by in the kitchen. But here's the part that surprises most people. Putting garlic in the fridge can quietly steal its strength. Whole bulbs were never meant for the cold. Garlic prefers dry air and gentle circulation, not the damp chill of a refrigerator. When you place garlic in that environment, the cloves start to sprout early. They grow those little green shoots, turning bitter and rubbery. The flavor fades, and so do the health benefits. What used to be powerful becomes dull and hard to work with. And it gets riskier when garlic is chopped or minced and stored in oil. That might seem like a smart shortcut, ready to go garlic, right? But when you mix garlic with oil and put it in the fridge, you create a moist, low-oxygen space that bacteria love. In rare cases, a dangerous bacteria called Clostridium botulinum can grow. That leads to botulism, a serious illness that's especially risky for older adults. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it can be devastating. So what should you do instead? Keep your garlic bulbs in a mesh bag, a paper bag, or even an open basket in a cool, dry cupboard. Let them breathe. If you've already chopped some and want to save it, mix it with vinegar or lemon juice. The acid helps prevent bacteria, and even better, just chop fresh whenever you can. It takes a minute, and you get the full flavor and all those healing compounds just as nature intended. And now, from the earthy strength of garlic, let's turn to coffee. Something a little more familiar, your morning cup of comfort. Coffee. For many of us, coffee isn't just a drink. It's a ritual. A warm mug in your hands as the sun rises. A little break in the afternoon to sit down. breathe, and gather your thoughts. Coffee gives us comfort, focus, and a sense of routine, especially when the rest of the day feels unpredictable. So it's no wonder we want to keep it fresh. And at first glance, the fridge seems like a good place to do that. But here's the catch: coffee, whether whole beans or ground, is what scientists call hygroscopic. That's just a fancy way of saying it absorbs everything around it. Moisture, odors, even flavors from other foods nearby. So when you place your coffee in the fridge, it doesn't just chill. It starts soaking in the smells of onions, last night's leftovers, or even garlic. The result, a brew that tastes flat, bitter, or oddly flavored. Not at all what you were hoping for, and the temperature changes don't help. Every time you open the fridge, the air inside shifts. That can cause condensation to form inside the coffee container, especially if it's not airtight. That moisture clumps the grounds, dulls the flavor, and over time even invites mold. It's frustrating, especially when you're using good quality coffee and still not getting that rich, smooth cup you love. And here's something else to consider: coffee isn't just about taste. It contains antioxidants like chlorogenic acid, which can support heart and brain health, but those helpful compounds start to break down when exposed to humidity and air. That means storing it wrong doesn't just affect flavor. It may also reduce the health benefits you're getting with each cup. So what should you do? Store your coffee in an opaque, airtight container at room temperature, ideally in a cool, dry cupboard, away from heat and light. And here's a tip: only grind what you need for a day or two. Freshly ground beans make a big difference in both taste and aroma. And honey, from one natural treasure to another. Let's now talk about something sweet and golden: honey. Honey is one of those gifts from nature that has stood the test of time. Long before we had pharmacies or supplements, people used honey to soothe sore throats, dress wounds, calm coughs, and even help with digestion. It's no wonder so many of us still reach for a spoonful in our tea or spread it gently on toast. It's sweet, comforting, and packed with goodness. So naturally we think keeping it safe in the fridge makes sense. But here's where it gets interesting. Unlike many other foods, honey is naturally antibacterial. It doesn't spoil when kept at room temperature. Not for months, not even for years. But the moment you put it in the fridge, something changes. The cold causes it to crystallize quickly. What was once smooth and golden becomes thick, grainy, and hard to scoop. It doesn't mean it's gone bad, but it's certainly not as easy to enjoy. Even more importantly, when you keep opening and closing a cold jar of honey, you introduce moisture inside, and moisture, believe it or not, is honey's greatest enemy. It disrupts the delicate balance that keeps bacteria at bay. Over time. That moisture can lead to fermentation, a sour smell, a strange taste, and even foam on top. Not only unappetizing, but also a sign that the honey is no longer safe to eat, especially for someone with a sensitive stomach. But here's the good news. The fix is simple. Just store your honey in a tightly sealed glass jar at room temperature. Keep it away from sunlight and heat. A kitchen cabinet works perfectly. If your honey has already crystallized, don't toss it out. Place the jar in a bowl of warm, not boiling water, and it'll return to its smooth state gently without harming its nutrients. Now, bananas from something sweet, let's move to something soft and tropical: bananas. And why cold is their worst enemy. Bananas are one of those fruits that seem to belong in every kitchen. They're gentle on the stomach, easy to chew, and packed with potassium, which helps with muscle function and heart health. That's probably why so many older adults reach for a banana as a go-to snack or part of a light breakfast. They feel safe, familiar, and satisfying. But here's the part that often surprises people. Bananas don't like the cold. In fact, the fridge is just about the worst place for them to be. You see, bananas are tropical fruits. They were made to ripen in warm climates, not chilly ones. When you place bananas in the refrigerator, especially if they're not fully ripe, the enzymes that help convert their starch into natural sugars simply stop working. The result: the ripening process comes to a halt. What you get instead is a banana with a dull flavor, patches of mushiness, and skin that quickly turns gray or black. It's not because the banana is spoiled, it's because the cold has shocked it. But it's not just about taste or appearance. Refrigeration can also reduce some of the natural antioxidants in bananas, like dopamine and caicins, that help fight inflammation and support brain health, and those are nutrients we especially want to hold on to as we age. Bananas are meant to offer more than just energy. They're little packages of nourishment and comfort, but when stored cold, they lose their strength. So what's the better way? Keep your bananas at room temperature. Ideally hanging on a hook or resting in a fruit bowl where air can circulate if you're worried about them ripening too fast. Just keep them away from other fruits. Apples and avocados can speed things up. And speaking of olive oil warmth, let's turn to something rich, heart-healthy, and often misunderstood. Olive oil has earned its reputation as one of the healthiest oils out there. And for good reason, it's rich in healthy fats and powerful antioxidants, making it a key part of the Mediterranean diet, which is known for supporting heart health, easing inflammation, and even protecting brain function for seniors. It's a smart, delicious way to care for the body with every drizzle. But here's something many people don't realize. Storing olive oil in the fridge can quietly undo some of those benefits at first glance. Refrigerating olive oil might seem harmless. Maybe you've seen it turn cloudy or thick and thought, oh, it's just the cold. And yes, it is. But the problem goes deeper when olive oil goes in and out of the fridge repeatedly. The constant change in temperature begins to stress its chemical structure. That stress can lead to oxidation, and oxidation is what we're trying to avoid in the first place. It breaks down the healthy fats and creates unstable molecules called free radicals. These are linked to aging joint issues and other inflammatory problems, exactly the things olive oil is supposed to help with, and if that weren't enough, the fridge dulls. The flavor too, that rich, slightly peppery, almost fruity taste. Good olive oil has cold storage, flattens it instead of pouring smoothly and tasting vibrant. It turns thick, heavy, and a bit lifeless for those of us who love cooking. That's a real shame. So what's the smarter choice? Keep your olive oil in a dark glass or metal container stored in a cool, dry cupboard, away from heat sources like the stove or direct sunlight. If the bottle is clear, consider wrapping it or transferring the oil to a darker container and try to buy smaller amounts more often, rather than one giant bottle that sits around for months. This helps preserve both taste and nutrition. So here's the heart of it all. Staying healthy after 60 doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it simply means doing things differently. A potato kept in the pantry instead of the fridge, a loaf of bread stored in the cupboard instead of chilled. These aren't grand changes, but they speak volumes. They say, I care, I'm paying attention, I'm still choosing what's best for my body. Your kitchen is more than a place to cook. It's where your health quietly begins, one thoughtful habit at a time. And the best part, you already have everything you need to start. No diets, no stress, just awareness, intention, and a little curiosity. If this video helped you see things in a new light, if even one of these tips made you pause and think, I didn't know that, then it's already made a difference. And if it did, why not help someone else feel the same? Share your thoughts in the comments. What food were you storing the wrong way? What habit will you change starting today? Like this video if it brought you value. Share it with a friend, neighbor, or loved one, someone who deserves to stay healthy too. And don't forget to subscribe to Health 365 for more gentle, practical wisdom to help you live stronger, longer, and happier every day. Because health isn't about doing everything perfectly, it's about doing the little things with care.